Westerveld's presentation is a tour de force. Surely he is one of the world's leading experts in this sector. Probably there is no other consultant anywhere who could trump his extraordinary knowledge and experience. Only a few minutes of their time allocation remain. Westerveld pauses. Are there any other questions? Heads shake from side to side around the room. Thank you very much, says the CEO. That was very instructive. As they ride the elevator down from the 47th floor, one of the younger partners says to Westerveld, "You were awesome." Westerveld smiles. He and his partners feel good about the presentation. Why shouldn't they? They know banking inside out. Back in the conference room, the bank executives huddle for a quick debriefing. The consultants they have heard are the CEO's favorites. I know because the CEO has told me they were. He wants them to get the job. But he isn't going to impose them on his team. There are many positive comments as he goes around the table. Good so far. The most restraint comes from Jennifer, the bank's chief human resource officer. She has worked with the bank for nearly 30 years. The last to speak is Peter, the head of global corporate banking, the very business the consultants have spent the most time on. Peter is clearly upset after the consultant's presentation. He is slightly red in the face, agitated. I couldn't possibly have these people as my consultants, he blurts out. He can hardly contain his anger. Especially the lead partner, Westerveld. He doesn't listen. He has no empathy. This is a story from the book Power Questions by Andrew Sobel and Jerold Panas. And I was thinking about negotiation and presentation as well, and how to sell your service, how to sell yourself in this situation. So that's why I wanted to share this with you and just ask you about, first of all, your initial thoughts on this piece. And then, what do you think about influencing others in this sense?
Cool. Yeah. I have one question.
Yeah.
Because it seems that there is a piece which is missing, because this is like a part of the story, right?
Yeah.
What happened before? So it's basically about somebody presenting to someone, like without giving a lot of details, and somebody in this room did not like the fact that the presenter, the main one, the partner, was not showing enough empathy, and this is why they decided not to work with them. So what's behind this lack of empathy? Like, how did they perceive it?
Yeah, so first a bit of context, I guess, on the story. It's about a consulting firm wanting to work with a bank on a massive project, one of the biggest projects you can get in the world, to be honest. It's a room of 10 people from the actual bank, 3 people from the consulting firm which are presenting. And the guy is, it seems that Westerveld, the main guy, is an expert in
this sector,
in this particular sector. Yeah, so he has a very strong opinion of what the bank should do, and the person who doesn't agree with him is the HR, and the second one is the person that is responsible for that particular part of the bank which Westerveld wants to help with.
Okay.
So he has his own agenda, his own plan, his own strategy. So he was disappointed that Westerveld, the guy from the consulting firm, didn't try to listen to him and try to cooperate in that way. So in that sense, he said the CEO that he has no empathy. It's interesting because later on in the story, what basically happens is the HR says that Westerveld was making eye contact with the CEO only because he wanted to sell him the idea rather than try to work with the rest. So she was saying he was just focused on you. I don't think he fits our culture because he's going to be very difficult to work with. He's basically trying to influence just one person who's responsible for the decisions, and obviously other people are responsible for the decisions as well because they didn't get the deal at the end. So this is a bit of context around it.
Yeah. So this leads to me thinking into directions. One of them is from the like more a personal idea that whenever you're speaking with somebody, if it's in a corporate environment, okay, but it could be, outside when you go to a club, to a pub, or to a restaurant, who you speak with, and like you can perceive somebody. Let's say you meet the manager and you think, okay, that's the main guy and I have to speak with him because he's the big dog here and I'm gonna win the most from him if I'm very good at, you know, convincing him at what I want him to believe. But the idea is that there could be some other people around that which you might think, these guys, they don't matter at all. But at the end of the day, they could matter a lot to anything. Like it's even in personal relationships. Like if you go to a networking event and you think that you have to speak with the, I don't know, with the managing director of one corporation, and it turns out that the associate is a very close friend to him and he's the one helping him with the decisions, but you fully ignore him. So therefore you would not get what you want. So therefore, like I see it as from a standpoint that whenever you are in a situation where you're surrounded by people that you communicate with and you want to get something from them, don't be laser focused on the most important person from your point of view, because you don't know who actually is having a lot of impact on this most important person. And if you disappoint those people, you lose it no matter how impressive you were for the CEO.
Yeah, just to follow up on this, because I like the current company I'm working at, they work with enterprise businesses, and something that they recently told me is very often you would reach a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper would be not the CEO of the company, would be someone in the marketing team, let's say.
Yeah.
And your product would be very good for them, let's say, what you're selling, and they will almost become part of your team in that negotiation, because they will be negotiating with the CEO himself or herself. So in that sense, if you paying attention to everyone in the room and try to think about their incentives, you can almost get someone on board, even if the CEO is not sold on what you're trying to
exactly, because you need this person to be on your team in order to be able to convince
and
the
they can
decision maker.
Exactly, they can influence the CEO. So that I think that's a very good point. What would be your second?
It's it's coming from Chris Voss, the idea of we've mentioned this book quite a few times. It's about the art of negotiation.
Never split the difference. I think.
Never split the difference. The art of negotiation. Yeah. So he's saying that when you because he's a hostage negotiator.
Yeah.
And he speaks with the person who, let's say, is robbing a bank for not robbing a bank, but there's some what was the word of the people that are inside a bank, let's say, and they're kept inside. It's not victims, but
hostages.
Hostages. Yeah. So it's about letting those hostages out.
Yeah.
And when he's speaking with the main guy, he's saying that you have to think who else might be behind him.
Yeah.
Even though you don't see anybody, you only see one, and you hear only from one person. You have to basically be a step ahead and think, okay, I should realize who, I should find out who's behind him, who's also part of the decision-making process, which is one thing, and also what their incentives are. So how can I convince them? And if I manage to convince them, I'll manage to convince the person who I have been in touch with. And this doesn't mean that you have to reach out to the other guys. You just have to realize or think about what their incentives could be. So that's kind of a different situation where you are one-on-one with one person, but you see the full picture of what's behind him.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because, thinking of incentives and hostage situations, I remember in that book he was explaining how in some hostage situations, someone would ask for millions of dollars, let's say, in the beginning of the negotiation. But if you know what their actual incentives are, especially in South America, there are a lot of cases of someone getting
kidnapped.
Yeah, there are a lot of situations like this, and they are asking for millions of dollars. But he was explaining what they basically want is to get enough money to get drunk during the weekend, because it's such an industry there, kidnapping people, that in fact you're thinking of it as a day-to-day perspective, almost okay, I want to party this weekend, a couple of thousands of dollars would work. So he was explaining in the book how millions of dollars kidnapping cases go down to 10K or 20K or something like this, just because you know what the actual incentive is. What's the priority? The priority is get day to day, live for the next few months, then do another kidnapping, let's say. So it's very interesting in that sense, and that is very true. Like he was also explaining in like the banks how you would have someone talking on the phone, but you can immediately sense that they are not the decision maker, and different people, even in a kidnapping situation, have different incentives. So you need to kind of figure out what the actual issue is. And on that point, from this book, I think for me, one of the major bits was the labeling technique.
Which book?
From the Never Split the Difference book of Chris Voss. One of the main things is the labeling technique. And this brings me back to the story where the guy literally says he has no empathy. And the labeling technique, which, to explain it briefly, is you label what the other person is kind of feeling and what they want. So that will be how he proposes. We use that as the structure is, it seems that, and then you explain what you think the situation is, or what the person is feeling. So in that case, it could be, it seems that you're agitated, or it seems that you're mad if it's a hostage negotiation because of these reasons. So just saying that shows the other person that you actually put yourself in their shoes. It's almost like you care, despite, you know, there being a terrorist or whatever, a criminal. So you don't actually care, but it's that functional empathy that shows them, okay, I can communicate with this person. They listen to me.
Yeah.
And then it's very easy to, it's much more easier for them to listen to your perspective as well. And even there's a case in that book, which is very interesting, is they were negotiating with a terrorist. I can't remember which country they were in, but they were negotiating with them. And the guy was talking with that terrorist for maybe 2 or 3 months. And he was using this technique. And after the case, I don't know if it was months or years later, the guy's calling him as if he was his friend, like just to speak. So the terrorist got away, obviously, but he was talking with the guy from FBI about this. I don't think it was Chris Voss. It might have been like the local police, but it's still like, it's an incredible example of how you can build a relationship even if the differences between the two sides are that extreme.
Yeah, and to go back to the first story, in order to be able to do this, you have to have like your attention flowing around the room to be like catching what everybody might be feeling or doing, so that you can label it. Because if you see what was the chief of staff or the person who was working for 30 years, like the HR.
Oh yeah, the person that was for example, he didn't pay attention to her. Yeah,
but like if he was, you know, following not only the CEO but also her, probably in her eyes or her like face impression, it would be visible that something is, you know, annoying her, like that he doesn't care about the bank, and he would be able to label it. He would be like, it seems that you're not agreeing with some of my points, and then she would give him the details. He would have been able to tackle it and probably win the case. And that's like something else which I thought of when you mentioned the labeling, and the fact that it's a strategy that you're quite indirect with. You don't say you are mad or you're annoyed or you are sad. You say it seems that you are.
Exactly.
Which if you do it directly, you say, oh, it seems like you are mad. Like, I know that you are. Then there's gonna be the defense from the other person who's like, I'm not. What are you talking about? But when you do it indirectly, it seems that I'm not saying that you are. But it seems that. So let me know if you are. If not, okay, I didn't say that you are annoyed or anything.
That's how it seemed to me. It's almost like the passive statement makes it like someone is looking from the outside, and that's how it seems. So maybe what you're basically saying is, even if that's not the case, please elaborate even more. And that's what Chris Voss is saying. You can mislabel stuff intentionally. I don't know if he says that it's intentional, but you can mislabel stuff
to get the right information.
Because they will correct themselves. Because you're saying it seems that you're agitated, but maybe the person is just more emotional. So he'll be like, no, you know, that's not the case. It's this thing. So in terms of negotiating, you're trying to get more information. So if you mislabel something, that makes it even better.
And this is from Tim Ferriss, that like this strategy also works in personal relationships. If you're having, like, everything is negotiation, as Chris Voss is saying, you're negotiating every single day. When you go to Starbucks,
when you're crossing the street.
But the thing is that you could be applying this strategy if you're having an argument with your girlfriend or with your parents, so that you understand what the other person is saying as well, like
Yeah.
feeling. And it's not only about negotiations. What I wanted to mention here.
It's almost like that game. I don't know if you remember. I think we've discussed it once, where you repeat what the other person is trying to say before you state your point. I think that's a technique by Jordan Peterson, to be honest. Now thinking about it, he's just like, he was explaining one thing that couples can do is try to repeat what the other person has said with their own words, and then
With their own words?
With their own words, yeah. So if you've described it wrong, what you understood, then the other person is gonna correct you, and then you would realize that it's not actually what they're saying. So that's a way for couples to, I think they're using it in couple therapy. That's a way for couples to understand each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because very often in your head, you're translating it in a different way, or trying to win points because of ego or something. While if you do that, then you have like the correct statement. You cannot go around it. Like,
yeah, that's a very strong point.
Yeah. So labeling is for me is the same, because you're repeating basically what they say. You're presenting what they are saying or what they're feeling or what the situation is in your own words, so they can correct you in that way. And you pretty much signal that you are listening and have empathy.
You're testing the ground as well. Like, if you're correct, and if not, it's good because you're going to get the right information, but not in an aggressive way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to mention also one more strategy from Never Split the Difference, which I think is quite crucial as well, like mirroring.
Yeah.
If you remember, it's kind of like related to this one, or they are complementary, I guess.
Yeah.
Because mirroring is when you say, let's say, I want you to do the dishes today, which for you might be, you want me to do the dishes? Like, what do you mean? Like, we live together, we have to do them together. And you say, you want me to do the dishes? And then like you start speaking for something else, or you might leave a small pause, which when you mirror somebody, he's gonna basically think of what he said. And if it doesn't make sense, he would correct himself, and he would like, wait, no, it doesn't matter. Like, this was an example of one employer who was asked to make like 1,000 photocopies or something like very, very big number. And he mirrored his boss, and his boss was like, wait, don't do it. Like, just do 2 photocopies. That's fine. Yeah,
because you make the other person think. And the other thing is with mirroring is you're basically fishing for information again. Like, if you repeat the last bit of a sentence and you leave a pause, that's very important, because some people try to fill in the silence when you can just not do it. The other person is not going to respond with, like 90% of the time, the other person is not going to respond with yes. What they're going to say is add more information and think about what they're saying and what the reason is. And sometimes when you think about the reason or state it explicitly, you're like, okay, maybe the reason's not that good for that. So in that sense, it's very useful. The other thing is with mirroring, you show that you listen, but there's a different part of mirroring, which I think Chris Voss doesn't focus on that much in the actual book, or maybe he does. I'm not sure. You can tell me if that is the case. Mirroring in terms of almost imitating the other person. Like, for example, you go and you try to, let's say, negotiate. It's not necessarily negotiation, but present your product. Very often people would ask you, do you want like coffee or tea if you're going to a restaurant? Because that's my personal experience. And one thing that I can't remember where I read it, I think it might be this book, what they were saying is you can follow up with a question, are you having one? And if they're having, so you're basically making them aware that you care about, what they're gonna do, and then people are more likely to trust people that act in a similar way. So in that sense, you can kind of think about these things without, of course, being inauthentic, because there's the like being fake. Possibility to go and be fake. If you don't want to have a coffee, just don't have a coffee. But if you're thinking about how to present something, let's say, or how to communicate something better, maybe it's better to explain the thing in their own terms. So if they're referring to something in a particular way, they're using a term, a definition, maybe use that same term or definition so that you'll be mirroring themselves, but they will understand you better. And as I said, you're making them aware that you do try to communicate well with them, that you try to speak in their own terms.
That's a good point, like, because And a follow-up point on this one is that when you mirror somebody, and let's say you mirror the way I speak, you imitate me.
Yeah.
There's a higher chance that I will trust you because I feel you as one of mine, like one of my guys, because you don't seem to be like an alien who, let's say you go to it's similar like in marketing and sales. If you want to have a campaign for restaurants, you're not gonna speak the language I speak in investment banking, let's say, because it's completely different. And
exactly, yeah,
it's the same. Like, it's an example which when I was back in Bulgaria, I wanted to get my suit tailored, and one friend of ours, he speaks in a very particular way, and what I did is that I tried to mirror him, because like it's the way he speaks is very particular, and I tried to mirror him. I was like using the same words sometimes because I know him, and I was basically showing him that okay, we're friends, but actually we're closer because I know how you speak. We are on the same team, so this made him easier for him to help him. Like, at the end of the day, he helped me. I'm not sure if this is what convinced him, but yeah.
But did you know, I was thinking of also politicians. They're like the most populist of them. They would try to speak in the people's voice or whatever, and they would be. People would say, "Oh, he's telling the truth.
He's one of us."
Yeah, he's one of us. He's speaking as as he wishes to, something that they enjoy. They think that a politician might be honest just because he's speaking the same way that they would do. He's not using, let's say, expert slang or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they hate, like, a lot of people at least hate that disassociation.
It's
better to understand.
Hate it, but it's harder to understand.
But that just shows you this is an instrument, I think. So, because some politicians might be dishonest and still use that to get votes. So it just shows you that this is an instrument, but again, you have to know how to use it, because it's not always used for good intent, I guess.
And also, when you know about this instrument, I guess if you're on the other side and you get mirrored, you get labeled, you are able to tackle it.
But do you think you'd be agitated by that? I think that just shows
not agitated, but probably I would try to ignore it. If somebody tries to convince me about something by mirroring or labeling, I would, like, if he labels me and he wants to get more information, it makes sense. But if he mirrors me and this is what he uses to basically convince me, I would try to ignore it and try to focus on the fundamentals of what he's saying. What
is objectively right, and you would think how much information you're giving away when negotiating if someone is doing it, because you know that you're getting more information through this way of communicating, so you'd be careful of what your intuition is leading you to say. So I can see that definitely. Yeah, cool.
All right. Do you want to jump on to the second topic?
Yeah, cool.
Which actually we could go into different directions. One of them is from one of the questions. Like, today we asked you guys to send us some questions, which thank you, we already received quite a few. So we're gonna tackle all of them in this or next episodes. Like, we're gonna cover all of them. The second direction is a quote. It's related to the law of attraction. So which one would you want to go for?
I will trust your intuition on this.
You trust my intuition. I'm asking you a question and you give me the ball, like the ball is in my court. All right, let's go for one of the questions.
Okay, cool.
We can keep the quote for next time. And the question, which I think is good to cover, is the one from Stiopagram. Thank you very much. Which is to discuss the importance of the social environment.
Yeah.
So how would you answer this? Like, what would be your 20-second answer to the importance of social environment?
Before my 20-second answer, because I feel like I'm pitching when you say a 20-second answer, I want to say that this is also, it's very relevant for the law of attraction, I think, because the law of attraction builds your social environment in a way.
It is.
Yeah, so we can cover that, I think, as well. So it's kind of combining the two questions, but I think if you listen to successful people in general, they're like, most of them would say that what made them was the people around them. So it's probably like the social environment. And if you think of the social environment of the people you spend most time with, it's probably good to think about who's your closest people. And there was a quote: "You're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with." I can't remember who.
Yeah, like Tim Ferriss is always mentioning it. I'm not sure if it's from him, but yeah, I thought about the same thing.
So if you think of it in that sense, then you're gonna start thinking about the people you spend most time with. Jordan Peterson, in his book 12 Rules for Life, the first one, An Antidote to Chaos, he speaks of letting go of people that are bad influence of you and who don't want to change, because you cannot make people change if they don't want to change. So in that sense, I think we have to, or I try to, when I think about this, is I try to kind of choose the people I'm hanging around with, not feel bad about letting go of people that I don't think want to change, develop, improve, and I don't think they're at the right place at the moment. Of course, that doesn't mean not helping people that want to change, but I think you get my point. And almost building your social environment. So just as an example from my personal life, is living with you and Nicola would be a choice like this. So yeah, just making the right choices to build that social environment, I think, is very important. And you can do that in different ways. You can think about the people you already know, or we can go into a completely different roles and think about networking and, you know, how to meet new people that have the same interests. And maybe that's relevant to the law of attraction. Maybe that happens naturally. I don't know. You just kind of...
The people you attract?
Yeah, so briefly to explain the law of attraction as well, it's very roughly said, it states that sooner or later you're gonna meet, or you're gonna attract the people that have the same interests, ambitions, similarities to you.
Yeah.
Just because you're trying to get the same goal, so you would naturally be drawn to the same things, and then from there you would just meet them. So maybe that is a point on top of this, is if you have the right goals, the right motivations, you're gonna meet the right people, you're gonna have the right social environment.
It's because I believe that subconsciously you're thinking about it more than if you don't have those goals. Because if your goal is that you want to meet new people who are gonna lift you up higher, you know, that they're gonna help you develop and grow, or let's say your goal is to, I don't know, something that's not that, like start a clothing brand, which is not very related to us. And if this is your goal, like you're gonna start seeing clothing brand trends all around, you're gonna start seeing the small brands, which otherwise, if you're not thinking about it, it's, you're just gonna completely ignore. Like there was this point from I don't remember which book, like one of the first books actually I read, it was about the law of attraction, a point there which was one of the guys there said to his wife that he wants to meet somebody, like some very famous person, and he even had it on his whiteboard. He wrote it down. I want to meet this guy. And what happens, like a week later, he meets him, like randomly on the street. Really? He meets him like somewhere, because like this is the law of attraction. And he said that I started like looking for him. I was actually actively going around thinking about where could this guy be, you know, not being... That is I'm gonna say that is a bit weird though. No, this I was gonna say, like not in a weird way that you only focus on it, but like he basically met him. Like I don't remember if it was randomly on the street or on like in an event that this guy went to as well, because if it was in an event, for example, and the main character didn't know that the other person was going, subconsciously he could have been thinking that this guy most probably is gonna go to an event about this topic. I'm gonna go. I don't know if he'll be there, but actively I'll try to see him. Yeah,
it just shows how many things go into, you know, meeting new people that we are not aware of. So, for example, let's say this guy wanted to meet this other guy.
Yeah.
If you ask him why did you want to meet him, it's probably because he was impressed by him in some way or other.
He wanted to learn something.
Yeah, he wanted to learn something. And then if you think, okay, so if you want to learn that thing, you're probably doing other stuff that that this second guy is doing as well. So if he's an expert in, let's say banking, you want to meet this Jan expert in banking, you probably have a reason for that, and that is you want to know more about banking, let's say. So you're going to banking events, and what is the likelihood of this person also going to banking events? It's probably very high. And why you also think this guy is great is because he's similar to you. So maybe he grew up in the same environment. So maybe he's attracted to the same environment. So maybe that, you see, it's how I see it is like almost like a calculation, and that increases the probability of you meeting that very person. So that is the law of attraction in a like more mathematical way. So because I don't believe in coincidences really. So I think there is a lot that goes into meeting people and being attracted to people.
Not only to meeting people, but also to doing and achieving stuff. I guess like it also matters. But along the way you meet new people, so it's kind of like all interconnected, which is strange. It's scary to some extent because, I mean, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know who you're gonna meet. It's such a long journey, and along this journey, it could go so broad. You could go into different directions, and it's depending on what you focus on, what you pursue as a target. But going back to the point of importance of like social environment, I also believe that it's extremely important, because if you are an alcoholic, which we might question this one.
Good example.
We might question this one, and Nicole was, I don't know.
Should I be offended? I'm saying this because I've partied a lot in the last week, not because I'm an actual alcoholic, I think, at least.
Well, he thinks so. We started questioning this one. It's a joke, by the way. And Nicole was, some junkie, I don't know, that he doesn't do anything. He just stays, he watches Netflix all the time. If this is your surrounding, you are gonna pick up some stuff from those guys. I will become an alcoholic probably. I'll start watching Netflix because it will become more normal for me to do that. Because Nicole is doing it. And this is why I believe it's extremely important to have your closest surrounding as very, very filtered or carefully picked, because these are the guys that will drive you forward. And these are the guys that are gonna be impacting your decisions in one way, or they're gonna be making it easier to go partying, or to have a very deep discussion about relationships, about life and stuff in general. So this is why it's just so simple that there are so many cliche pictures online, but the orange, which is having mold, it's going bad, and then you put a good orange close to it, it's just gonna pick up the mold.
That is a very good analogy, and it's interesting that you brought it up, because I was just thinking about this.
About the orange?
About the orange picture. And
really?
Because I saw that online, and I was like, I think the person that posted it don't know how true that is, because there is a scientific explanation to it. So back at university, I remember I had a module, behavioral economics, and one of the biggest experiments was with labor and people working. So they give them a task, let's say, folding papers and mailing them somewhere, and they would track how many
mailing them, sending
putting them in mail, the mail
the
paper,
mailbox.
And for example, or just putting piles of this folded paper. So it was a very simple task. They would just have to fold it, put it in the envelope, and then put it somewhere else. And they would track how much, I think it was students or I can't remember, but it's done with different groups of people, so it's very robust in that sense. It's very accurate, this experiment. So they're doing that, and they're tracking how many of them they're going to do in, let's say, 2 hours. So they're doing that, and they put them in a room individually. So they track, okay, these are the high performance in terms of that task. These are the low performance in terms of that task. And they were asking themselves, okay, what's going to happen if we put them together? And what turned out to happen is if you put a bad worker, so to speak, for that task with a good worker, what happens is their average value goes down almost every single time. It goes down across multiple populations for multiple different tasks, multiple groups of people, demographics. It almost always goes down, the average. So it means that the person that is
the bad one
that's doing less work influences the good one more than the good one influences the bad one. And there are different hypotheses why that is. It could be because, people are more drawn to short-term pleasure. Maybe that's how we evolved, because that's the world we used to live in. But it's very interesting, and when I found that out, I was like, okay, like I really need to think about the people I'm, hanging around with, because you might think you're going to influence someone in a good way and change them, but the reality is, unless you're some kind of Ubermensch superhuman, you would be influenced in a bad way more than you influencing them in a good way.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, because it's an actual like well-known fact in psychology and behavioral economics.
I really like this point, and like there was like a quote from Naval which was saying that like nowadays, like the problem of society nowadays is that dopamine is so easily accessible, like through everywhere. So like this also touches on your point that we are focused on short-term fulfillment and short-term satisfaction, which is nowadays so easily accessible through almost everything, and it's much harder to keep pushing it set and to focus on the long term. So therefore, when the bad person comes in, it's much easier to just give up, like whatever happens, like I'm enjoying my life now, while the good guy, like good worker, he needs to really convince the other ones that they need to improve. So that's from two, like could be seen from two ways. One of them is that bad workers are very hard to be convinced to become good workers because it's much harder for them to keep pushing. While it's much easily, and nowadays also it's also easier to get the instant satisfaction of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which the bad worker can show you.
Well, it's easier to convince someone that they don't have to sacrifice something, in that sense, their energy and work for something that's gonna come in the future, than it is to influence them to not sacrifice something. So sorry, it's easier to make someone not sacrifice something now than it is to sacrifice something now. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I agree. And just to add something to all of this, is that I believe that your social environment, especially nowadays with social media, is not only the people that you communicate with on a daily basis, but also is the type of stuff that you follow online. And it's extremely important to basically have a filter on this as well, I guess, because if you follow accounts which are like about, I don't know, like junkies, let's say, that are partying every day, like there's such YouTube channels, right, that it's cool in the US to be partying.
For sure.
And if you follow only this, you are gonna start taking that school, and this is what I want to do because these are the guys that I'm following. So, but if you follow, on the other hand, Naval, Tim, and all these guys that are like basically focused on self-development, they're like guys that you can learn so much from. Yeah,
I mean, YouTube, social media, again, they're just instruments, and people hate on them so much. But the thing is, if you follow the right accounts, then...
But it's hard to do so, like to use them in the right way, because it's like very... And these social medias, as we discussed the other day, are making it hard for you to benefit from them. Let's say Instagram.
Yeah.
You can learn, like you can be basically getting so much knowledge out of it, but then you open your Reels, and which is like, there was this Netflix documentary.
The social dilemma.
Which is basically explaining how they thought about it. They were like, we need to increase the usage. We need to like, oh no, the usage is going down with Reels, for example. TikTok came to this planet, to this world, and our users are not liking those long videos anymore. They're not scrolling anymore. Add Reels.
But then again, you're not gonna binge watch on knowledge Reels, because you just won't do that. And the algorithm is gonna find out you're spending more time on cute dogs and cats and funny videos, haha videos, rather than knowledge videos. Yeah, exactly. But also there is, I think, demand for longer term content, and that's the boom of podcasts. It seems that people don't get that too much in the current world, because it's all like short-term stuff. So you can see demand in the other direction as well, more podcasts. So it's about the platforms you choose, to be honest, like, and It has to be a choice. If it is a choice, what you follow, who you follow, and what you want to see,
Yeah, like everything's
it's
a
much
choice.
easier to avoid.
No. Like the people that you hang out with, as you said, is a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I think this could be one of the last points because something very important is happening right now. There is Formula One going on, and should we check?
Should we check during the podcast? We should have just put it on, to be honest.
Yeah, but like what I was gonna mention is that if you're from a small town, like our hometown,
Yeah.
it's a bit harder to surround yourself with good people because, I mean, that's
Why
a bit
are you dissing our hometown?
that's because it's a small town.
No, I agree.
It's 70,000 people, and the proportion of bad people is. It could be the same in London as well, like it or fairly similar the ratio between good and bad people.
But you have bigger choice here.
Exactly, and it's I guess what advice would you give to those people that are from smaller towns, and also to those that live in London or to those big cities? Like, what would be your advice for when it comes to getting around surrounding and the right social environment?
I think Siri wanted to answer that question.
Yeah, they're listening to us.
Yeah,
They're listening to us.
Cool. So what would be my advice for people coming from a small town
And the
in
big
terms of
ones.
that?
Yeah, and
Small town is very simple. Just get out of the small town. Like, I don't think you can expand as a person almost without going out of the small town, because the context there is very robust, and you build these assumptions, these prejudices, which probably work there, but they're not the real world outside of your small environment. So what I would say is just get out of the small town, and it's gonna be painful initially, but I think eventually you become more open-minded.
and there's one more point here. Sorry for interrupting you, but basically the small town, how I see this is that there could be good people, but as the proportion of good people and bad people could be the same from here, but the absolute value of those is much less than in London. There is a cap, there is a limit to the quality of the good people. So that this is our hometown. These are the best guys over here. It's a small circle.
Yeah.
But this is where they are. Well, this is the one in London. It's much bigger circle, and it's much higher because you get more chance to see better people. Is what I'm trying to say.
The extremes are bigger
Yes.
in the bigger town, because it's a bigger population, obviously. So I would just say, even in my friends in Bulgaria that want to do something with their lives, my first advice is get out of Bulgaria. If you wanna, and I'm not saying it as a bad way to Bulgaria. It's just even if you're in the UK, get out of the UK. I think just travel.
Explore more,
meet more people. Yeah, exactly. And there's the same with people. If you're in the small town, as you said, you just have a smaller choice of people. If you get out of there, it's a different context. You probably learn more from people from different contexts, cultures, and you find the people that are more similar to you, because it's a bigger choice. And people from the big town, I mean, or the big city, that's a separate point, I think. But what I would say is, the first thing I would say is just think about the people you hang around with, and about the people you might want to hang around with for your goals, I guess, or objectives or motivations, or as the person you want to become.
Yeah, and I would say don't be scared to meet new people, because even if you're introvert, it's harder, but you shouldn't be scared of meeting new people and communicating with them.
Yeah, there's two ways. I think introversion is very often an excuse, but
it is, yeah.
And it's a good excuse, because the less people you communicate with, the more likely it is you haven't built the social skills. But that just means you need to push yourself more than the average person.
Yeah, because in general, I guess those people that we see it in front of the under the lights, those big CEOs of big corporations or podcasters,
they're very often introverted.
Yeah, but they tackle it in different ways.
Yeah, they've tackled it already.
Because I think that actually Tim Ferriss was also an introvert back then. I'm not sure, but let's say he was, but
maybe he's introverted as well now.
But he's able to do a podcast. He's able to meet new people. So this is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to be extreme when it comes to meeting new people. You don't have to go out every week to big events. But you can reach out to some people, go to an event once in a month, meet new people there, then build up on those relationships, but not just basically hang out with somebody. It also has to be a bit intentional, I guess, because you want to build relationship with somebody. Otherwise, it's going to be pointless if it's just meeting new people.
Yeah, and I would say don't try to save people just because of superficial loyalty.
True. Yep.
You don't have to hang with the same people.
It's like, because I started rewatching Suits, and you're like, have you watched it?
I haven't watched the ending, but if
no, it's
should
not
we
about,
say spoiler?
No, it's not it's like the first season.
Okay.
And the best friend of Mike Ross was drug dealer.
Oh yeah, true.
And Harvey told him, cut him off. Cut him off. He wasn't able to, but then like bad things happened again, so he had to cut him off. So as you said, don't be, just unwilling to cut some people off, and you don't have to save everybody.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I think this was a good episode.
Yeah, I think it was one of our best episodes in terms of discussion. It was quite good. It was very interesting things that we covered.
Yeah, true.
Despite it being very long, but
yeah, and it's the birthday of my brother today, so shout out to my brother. Happy birthday,
big bro.
Bro. Yeah, shout out to
from
him.
me as well. I don't think he's gonna watch it. So.
Yeah, he's not. No, I'm gonna tell him I mentioned something about you, so he watched something.
But he has to watch the whole episode because it's at the end. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming a bit more. 40 minutes in, it's still nothing.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you very much for watching.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the questions, we're gonna tackle them next time, as mentioned. Like, I think we can tackle one question per episode because we dive into deeper discussions, which I'm not sure. Yeah, let us know if it's good or not.
Unless we get a ton of questions, then we might just skim through them.
Yeah.
Which hopefully we're gonna get. Yep. But yeah, thank you for watching from me as well. And yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.